Welcome, everyone, to Deep Dive number 30 of Building Foundations.
The official audio deep dive by DGI Waterproofing.
That's right. Today is Wednesday, March 11th, 2026, and we've got a very specific, kind of terrifying morning scenario to talk about today.
Oh, yeah. We know this scenario all too well.
We really do. So picture this. You wake up, the rain is just aggressively drumming against your bedroom window.
Which is never a relaxing sound when you own a home.
No, definitely not. So you stroll into the kitchen, you've got your favorite mug of coffee in hand, and you part the blinds to, admire your backyard. But you no longer have a backyard. You have a newly formed, entirely uninvited body of water. Welcome to Lake U.
Yeah, Lake U. It's a visceral shock for any homeowner, unless you specifically ordered a medieval moat to defend your property.
Right.
Seeing standing water just aggressively creeping toward your home, it's a massive, soggy headache. It immediately gets your heart rate up.
Totally. But we want you to take a deep breath. Put down the coffee, and let's get to work. Because our mission today is to outline your absolute basement flood battle plan.
The whole playbook.
Exactly. We're specifically covering the first 60 minutes, the 24-hour watch, and then the ultimate 7-day resolution. And because we both work right here at DGI Waterproofing, we aren't just reading, abstract advice from some textbook.
No, we are sharing the exact field-tested survival guide that our own crews use every single day.
Yeah, when they pull up to a property that is literally underwater.
Because we see this all the time. We know what works, we know what makes things so much worse, and we know how to protect your home's structural integrity when the weather just completely turns against you.
Okay, let's unpack this. When you are standing there, staring out that window at your brand new personal pond, what is the absolute first move?
The very first rule, and I know this goes against every human instinct, is do not start bailing.
Do not bail.
Do not bail. When faced with a sudden backyard swamp, your brain screams at you to just get the water away. We constantly hear stories of people grabbing buckets or, plastic storage bins.
Oh, man, the storage bin.
Yeah, and frantically throwing water over the property line fence.
Which I imagine is incredibly tempting in the heat of the moment, just to toss that water over the fence to save your own basement. Why is that such a bad idea, aside from making your neighbors furious?
Well, blindly moving water without assessing the situation obscures the real dangers. And from a liability standpoint, if you manually dump water onto a neighbor's property and it floods their basement...
Or ruins their landscaping.
Exactly. You are legally responsible for those damages. You have to keep the water on your property, just maneuver it to a safer zone. But before you even attempt that, you really need to assess the danger zone.
Right. So rather than playing the chaotic bucket game, we need to put on our detective hats. What specific threats are our DGI crews looking for the second they step onto a flooded property?
We look for 3 immediate threats. The first is foundation proximity. Take a close look at where the puddle is forming. Is it cozying up directly against your foundation walls?
Or window wells.
Or your basement vents. If that water is touching the house, the clock is ticking.
Because people often underestimate how heavy water actually is. How long does a house really have before that standing water becomes an active leak?
It depends on the integrity of your concrete, but the soil can only hold back so much hydrostatic pressure.
Let's pause there for a second because we throw around the term hydrostatic pressure a lot in our line of work. For someone listening who isn't an engineer, what does that actually mean in the context of their flooded lawn?
Sure. Think of hydrostatic pressure as the sheer physical weight of groundwater pressing against an object. A single cubic foot of water weighs over 62 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So when the soil around your house is completely saturated, thousands of pounds of pressure are actively pushing against your basement walls, desperately trying to force water through any microscopic cracks or pores in the concrete.
That pressure is terrifying when you visualize it like that. So what is the next threat we need to look for while we are assessing the yard?
The second thing, and people forget this in their panic to save their patio furniture, is electricity.
Oh, absolutely.
You need to scan the yard for outdoor electrical outlets, the base of your garage, or wired storage sheds. Electricity and rogue puddles are a lethal combination.
Yeah, nobody should be wading into an electrified swamp in flip-flops. If water is rising near anything wired, you must stay back and kill the power to those outdoor circuits from your main breaker panel indoors.
Spot on. And the third threat is something you hopefully notice before you even step outside.
Smell.
The third threat is what we affectionately call the uh-oh smell. If you open your back door and smell raw sewage, or if you look out and see water actively gurgling and backing up from your outdoor floor drains, you need to stop everything.
Which means no flushing toilets, no running the dishwasher, no taking a shower.
Correct. That gurgling means the municipal sanitary or storm lines, the massive underground pipes that carry wastewater away from your street are completely overwhelmed.
Right, so if you add to that system by flushing a toilet, that water has nowhere to go but straight back up into your own basement.
Precisely.
Okay, so assuming we don't have an immediate electrical or sewage crisis, how do we stop the bleeding? How do we stop that stubborn low spot in the yard from just filling up more and more while the rain is still coming down?
You have to look at where the water's coming from. And usually the culprit is right above your head. Check your gutters.
Right.
If they are clogged with last autumn's dead leaves, the water just spills over the sides like a waterfall directly onto the ground next to your foundation. And look at your downspouts. A downspout that practically vomits rainwater right at the base of your house is a massive problem.
Yeah, we always stress the golden rule here at DGI. Your roof water needs to exit at least 2 meters, so it's about 6 feet or more, away from your foundation. But what if the water is already actively flowing towards something vulnerable, like a basement walkout door? I know we often suggest building a temporary berm.
Yeah, a berm is a lifesaver.
For those who haven't done it, a berm is basically just a small ridge or a mound of soil. You can use a shovel to quickly pack some dirt into a speed bump to steer the water away from your window wells.
Or you can use sandbags to create an emergency blockade. What's fascinating here is how water always takes the path of least resistance. When you build a berm, you are just changing that path.
But you have to be incredibly careful that your new path safely guides the water to a lower spot in your own yard.
Yes, rather than inadvertently channeling it straight into your neighbor's window well and starting a turf war.
Exactly. Okay, so we've survived the initial downpour, we've diverted the water, and the rain finally stops. Are we in the clear? This brings us to the waiting game, the 24-hour watch. How long is this water actually supposed to stick around before a homeowner should be genuinely concerned? That is the 24-hour test. If the water drains away completely within 12 to 24 hours of the rain stopping, you can let out a sigh of relief. Because you're likely just dealing with heavy surface runoff from an intense storm, and the ground simply needed time to catch up.
Right. But if it's been 24 hours, the sun is shining, and your yard is still stubbornly sitting there looking like a permanent duck pond, you have a deeper grading or compacted soil issue.
So what if it's been a day and I'm still looking at a swamp? What are the short-term fixes a homeowner can tackle while the yard is still basically mush? Because I know trenching is one of them.
Trenching is a great temporary measure. If you notice the water is pooling in one specific bowl-shaped dip in your yard, grab a spade and carefully create a shallow temporary trench from the puddle to safely guide the water toward a garden bed or a drainage area that can actually handle the moisture.
And sometimes you'll notice your lawn feels as hard as concrete, and the water is just beating on top of the grass without sinking in at all. If that's happening, you're dealing with severe soil compaction.
Exactly. The dirt is packed so tightly that it creates a crust.
So renting a mechanical lawn aerator is incredibly helpful here. It literally punches deep holes into the soil, breaking up that hard surface, which allows the earth underneath to actually open up and drink the water.
It's like aerating a sponge.
Yeah.
But for when things are a bit more dire and the water is deep, stagnant, and sitting dangerously close to the house, you need to bring in the pump.
Right. Go to the hardware store, buy or rent a small submersible utility pump. You drop it right into the deepest part of the puddle, attach a standard garden hose to it, and pump that water out.
Just remember to aim the hose toward the street storm drains, never the sanitary sewer.
So what does this all mean? Why does this happen so frequently around here? We are operating heavily in Toronto and the Greater Toronto area, and our crews are constantly dealing with this. What is going on underground that causes so many of us to wake up to Lakeview?
It is a combination of three main culprits. The first is the soil itself. We have incredibly clay-heavy soil in this region.
Like the clay is brutal.
It really is. I compare it to a stubborn toddler. It refuses to do what you want it to do. Unlike sandy soil, which drains instantly, clay particles are packed so tightly together that they form an almost impenetrable barrier. It takes forever to absorb anything, so water just sits right on top.
No matter how much you try to force it, the ground just pushes back. Now, I know a lot of the neighborhoods we service have homes built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. How much does the age of the house play into this? Massively. That's the second culprit, aging systems. Over the decades, the soil around a foundation naturally settles, which ruins the original grading that was designed to slope water away. Furthermore, older homes rely on original weeping tiles.
For the listener who has never dug up their yard, what exactly is a weeping tile?
It is a bit of a misnomer today. Originally, they were actual clay tiles, but modern ones are perforated plastic pipes buried in a trench around the bottom of your foundation footing. Groundwater is supposed to seep into these pipes and be carried away.
But in a 60-year-old home, those original pipes are often crushed, deteriorating, or completely choked solid with decades of compacted clay and tree roots.
Exactly. So they weren't built for today's intense rainfall, and they are essentially clogged. That is a recipe for disaster. But there is also a third culprit, a regulatory issue here that catches a lot of homeowners off guard regarding their downspouts.
Yeah, the downspout rules. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at municipal sewer management. In many cities, including Toronto, you are legally required to disconnect your downspouts from the municipal sewer system.
Right, because historically, downspouts fed right into the city drains. But during heavy rain, millions of gallons of roof water would overwhelm the city's infrastructure, causing citywide sewage backups into people's basements.
So the city mandates that you must disconnect your downspouts and discharge your roof water directly onto your own private lawn. It prevents mass sewer backups, which is great for the city, but it is absolutely terrible for your specific yard if your property isn't correctly sloped to handle that sudden influx.
So the city basically solved their massive infrastructure problem by handing thousands of homeowners a smaller but very frustrating localized problem.
That's the reality of it.
Well, if the city's infrastructure changes are pushing this problem onto our private lawns, it sounds like digging temporary trenches or renting pumps isn't a viable long-term strategy. You shouldn't have to live in fear of the weather forecast.
No, you really shouldn't.
So at what point do we hit the 7-day plan? When do we wave the white flag, stop bailing water, and actually call in our DGI pros to permanently fix the yard?
There are definitive trigger points where DIY methods are no longer sufficient. The first trigger point is distance. If that standing water consistently gets within 1 to 2 feet of your foundation, your home is in immediate danger. Call us.
What if the water has already breached the wall? Say you spot some dampness, peeling paint, or actively weeping cracks in your basement concrete.
That is the second trigger point. If you see dampness or leaks, the water has breached your defenses, and you need professional remediation. You cannot just patch that from the inside with hardware store sealant.
Because that hydrostatic pressure is relentless.
Exactly. And the third trigger is the sewage smell we mentioned earlier. If you smell that, it indicates a severe blockage. You need our heavy equipment. And the final trigger is if the flood is a repeat offender. If it happens every single spring, you need a permanent engineered solution.
Let's talk about the DGI arsenal. What do our heavy lifters actually do to ensure this never happens again? Let's start with professional yard regrading.
Regrading is literally reshaping the earth itself. We use machinery to strip back the top layers and repitch the dense subsoil so that gravity is permanently working for your house. We calculate the exact slope required so water is immediately ushered away from the structure.
But what about flat yards where regrading isn't enough? Here's where it gets really interesting. The French drain.
Oh, the secret underground highway.
Yes. When the clay soil simply refuses to absorb the water, we bypass the soil altogether. We excavate a deep trench across the problem area and line it with heavy-duty landscape fabric. We lay down a perforated pipe, surrounded entirely by washed gravel.
We wrap the whole thing up in the fabric like a burrito and cover it back up with grass. Water is lazy, it drops through the gravel into the pipe and zooms away invisibly. You get your green lawn back.
It's brilliant. But if the water has already threatened the home's structural integrity, a French drain won't fix a cracked foundation. We need exterior waterproofing.
That is the ultimate defense.
Yeah.
We bring in excavators, dig a massive trench all the way around your foundation down to the footings. We clean the wall, repair cracks, and apply a thick, elastomeric waterproof membrane.
And we use elastomeric because houses move, right? It stretches and flexes with the foundation wall so the seal doesn't crack. Plus, we install dimple boards over that membrane.
Right, which looks like heavy-duty plastic bubble wrap. It creates a physical air gap. The water hits the plastic, loses pressure, and drops straight down to the brand new weeping tiles we install at the footing.
But what if we can't excavate outside? Like if there's an expensive hardscape patio in the way? That is when we deploy interior waterproofing.
Exactly. We go into the basement, jackhammers a trench into the concrete floor around the perimeter, and create an internal drainage channel. Any sneaky water is immediately captured and directed to a heavy-duty sump pump system.
And that sump pump acts as a mechanical sentry to automatically eject the water up and out of the house.
Even during a blackout, because a proper system always includes a battery backup pump. You don't even have to lift a finger.
It's all about providing permanent peace of mind.
Absolutely. To summarize this whole situation, a flooded backyard is essentially the universe's least subtle warning sign. It is the check engine light of your property. Ignoring it won't make the water miraculously go away. It just invites the water to destroy your basement, ruin your landscaping, and significantly damage your home's overall value.
It's the ultimate preventative maintenance. Let's recap the battle plan for you today. When you see Lake U forming, act early. Assess the zone without rushing out in flip-flops. Make sure your downspouts are pointed far away. Try temporary fixes, and if that water refuses to dry up, call in the experts at DGI Waterproofing to permanently fix the problem.
This raises an important question for all of us to consider moving forward. As cities increasingly push the burden of storm runoff from municipal sewers directly onto private lawns, are homeowners unknowingly taking on the structural risk of aging city infrastructure? It really makes you look at your own downspout a little differently.
It really does. Thank you so much for tuning in to this deep dive on building foundations. Be sure to check out DGI Waterproofing's online resources for more expert advice. And don't hesitate to reach out to our team for emergency assistance. Stay dry out there, keep those gutters clean, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.